この番組はご覧のスポンサーの提供でお送りします。Is Qin Shi Huang a mark of power creep in Fate Grand Order? I've heard this in rumblings from a few people, but first, let's remember what power creep in FGO has looked like over the past few years. Separated by individual releases called Zhugliang, Tamamo no Mai, Fragments of 2030, Merlin, Skahak Scotty, Summer BB. There are a few smaller or arguable mentions, but for the purpose of this recording, I'd like to keep it down to the strictest sense that these releases absolutely changed the game and how it would be played forever. Only one of those is an offensive servant, and her application to the list of absolute game changers is mostly attributed to her third skill, Faceless Moon, cementing her on top of the fact that she is a solidly constructed servant even without it. Emperor Qin Shi Huang boasts amazing skills that are among the top tier for their respective uses. Their first skill being among the best NP charge decreases available, their second skill outpacing any other enemy team stun thanks to no required waiting period to launch, and their third skill even putting Lancer Artoria to shame with the exact same effects and NP charge percentages, but with an additional HP recovery. However, none of them are so overwhelming or unique individually that they force masters to concoct a massive new team compositions to adhere to them. To truly reach a conclusion here, it's ultimately going to come down to analyzing the Emperor's noble phantasm. The Domination Beginning, an arts self-buff that is admittedly a lot easier to understand than Qin Liang Yu's 4 poems. Apply invincibility, and then apply target focus for 1 turn. Right away, since you should be familiar with our inseparable partner MASH, it should be a no-brainer why this is good. Yeah, it's useless against any enemy who can apply some equivalent to ignore invincibility on themselves or their noble phantasms, but apart from that approximately 11% of servants, this is a perfect absorption of any and all single-target attacks. But this doesn't make vanilla Jeanne d'Arc obsolete at all, especially after her interlude removing her stun demerit. But wait, there is still more for this genderless peacock to flaunt. A 3-turn overcharged attack buff, and a 3-turn level-based critical strength buff, both beginning at a whopping 50% increase and capping off at an overwhelming 100% increase. And to complete this perfect bundle of power boosts, increased critical star gather rate, also for 3 turns. These can all stack, by the way, and with a fluid enough arts team, I have watched this Emperor become more than capable of recycling these powers every other turn. Much like Jeanne d'Arc with her own noble phantasm. Yes, the Emperor and Jeanne d'Arc ultimately do very different things overall, but my point isn't to compare them pound for pound, rather, my point here is, I have been asked by quite a number of people whether or not I found Qin Shi Huang to be the definitive best ruler. My personal answer would actually be no, since every ruler released thus far features a completely different application apart from the rest, and they are all effective at those different applications. And to call them the best would be highly dismissive of that fact. Jeanne d'Arc is a near indestructible tank with the highest HP in the game, meant to shield the party from danger whenever the need arises. Shiro Amakusa is a wave clearer, capable of removing all buffs before he strikes, which is more invaluable now than ever before and is still very, very rare to this day. Sherlock Holmes is an arts crit team-wide support servant, and Martha punches shit. So what would I call Qin Shi Huang? A self-sufficient, control-focused, single-target unit. This Cars clone is perfect for solo efforts, as he is basically a combination of all the general qualities of every ruler before him, and takes advantage of the hard ruler damage resistance against most other classes. However, bear in mind that those same rulers can all do something which he by himself cannot do as well as they can. Qin Shi Huang cannot protect the other 5 people in your party, nor can he remove any enemy buffs. He doesn't apply any bonuses to your party members, and he isn't Saitama. Though, given their potential damage output, this Emperor is pretty damn close. So, with that said, I will admit that he does bring something new to the table in that he's 11 times out of 12 bound to be the best solo candidate in Fate Grand Order's history up to this point. But soloing itself is nothing new to FGO. In fact, it's not uncommon whatsoever. The peak of soloing, at least in my opinion, is to claim a difficult match with a character the audience wouldn't normally expect to win. Or, at the very least, it's a commitment to endure with a character that people like. It's to show off. But if every solo video from now on just showcases Qin Shi Huang, then what's the point in ever doing it? Soloing will lose what has made it special and impressive in the first place. And would this make Qin Shi Huang game-breaking? Would that make them a genuine mark of power creep? In all honesty, the answer to this should probably objectively be yes. Subjectively, though, I consider Qin Shi Huang to be the ultimate test, just as they tested us in their Chinese Lost Belt. If servants such as Merlin, Scotty, Tamamo, and Waver took away a lot of the thought process for devising a team, then Qin Shi Huang could essentially take away all thought for regarding a team entirely, and at that point, would you even really be playing Fate Grand Order anymore? I mean, yes, of course, but you'd certainly be putting a lot more time into every single fight than ever before, I can guarantee you that much. I think it's important to analyze servants and team combinations to get the most out of playing this game. After all, it is a team-based game. Oftentimes, winning matches with my favorite servant is more satisfying to me and more impressive to an audience than winning with the most overpowered formation available. And if your favorite servant is Qin Shi Huang, remember that they weren't even alone in their own story chapter. After all, everybody needs a friend, and friends spare time.